Uh, Sorry for um, the abrupt stop to the video. I hydrated so I could run. I didn't expect myself to rant for that long, but I don't remember exactly what I was saying. But I know I was speaking on validation. Nobody has to believe anything you say or do. People reject the capacity by which someone can reject who you are is part of our freedom and our autonomy as humans. But the desire that we have to be of service and to children rebel against their parents, not because it is an inherent nature of our humanity, because most kids reach a point in their life where they want to emulate their parents and be helpful, right? So you can't get your kids to clean their room, but there was a time in their life when they would see you sweep and then they would want to sweep. They would see you wash the dishes and they would want to wash the dishes. They would want to emulate you. But because they were too immature and didn't really know what was going on, you didn't let them, right? So when your son or daughter would grab the broom, you were so concerned about them hurting themselves or breaking something or whatever else that you didn't allow them to emulate cleaning. So then when they got old enough to actually need to be a contributing member of the house, you spent years telling them that they couldn't do something. And now you expect them to do the thing that you told them that they wasn't able to do, couldn't do, aren't capable of, not smart enough to know how. And then you don't understand why there's this friction about you having them do something that they couldn't do when they were younger, right? The nature of us wanting to serve and to be of service to each other is what transcend. That's kind of the problem, right? The problem isn't that if you, if you, not me, but you, if you had infinite resources, would you hoard infinity? You wouldn't. You wouldn't. There's not a single person on the planet, if they had infinite resources, they would be like, yeah, I'm not sharing my infinite resources with everyone else. No, there's not a single person. There's not a single, no matter what they convince us about who we are and what our nature is, there's not a single person on this planet that if they had infinite resources, they wouldn't share. Because it's inherent to us. Because think about it. The vast majority of us want validation. And the easiest way to get validation is just to share, right? But you can't share something you ain't got, right? You can't give somebody $1 if you don't have an extra dollar to give. And you're not gonna give somebody your last because you don't expect them to give you their last, right? So the nature for us to want to be of service and to serve, not the military, but in general, the nature of us to want to be of service and to serve is synonymous with our desire to want to be functional members of society. Nobody wants to be incompetent. Nobody wants to be disabled. Nobody wants to be stupid. Everybody wants to be of service. Everybody wants to serve. Everybody wants to be a contributing community. Everybody wants to be a contributing member of society, even if that means not being a burden, right? The vast majority of people that are lazy simply don't want to be a burden on the rest of the world because they've been constantly convinced that they're not good enough. There was a girl that was working at McDonald's and she was hustling, like she, you know how work is. She was doing all this stuff. And she was like, Paul, can you put a fry down for me? I said, yes, I can put a fry down for you, but I'm not going to. She's like, what? I was like, I am confident in your ability to do your job. And she didn't know how to feel about that. Because on the one hand, she wants help. But on the other hand, she wants to be validated. So it's like, well, how do I process this? How do I feel? Because you know what I wasn't doing? Oh, you can't do it. You're not good enough. You're useless. Like, none of that energy is gonna get you anywhere. The reason why people tear you down and disrespect you on a day-to-day basis is so that they can try to manipulate you into doing the things that they don't want to do. But they don't even know what they want. Right? Like, why would you allow somebody that doesn't have a clear plan for themselves to dictate how you govern yourself? If they don't even have the capacity to govern themselves, what gives them the right to govern you, right? And the fundamental conflict with this is that's the way we start our lives. We start our lives with parents that don't have a clear direction on what they want to do with their lives, constantly reacting to a broken ass system. Then we don't know where we're going or what we're doing or what we should be doing because we started life that way. We started life not understanding the reality of the thing. You see the world but you don't understand the world. Children are not competent. Children don't have the capacity to fully, let me back up. Children are competent, and children do have the capacity to understand the reality. It goes back to what I said about someone trying to convince you that you're a failure. When you're born ignorant and don't have all of the information, you're gonna make mistakes. The capacity by which you can survive and endure a mistake is how you become competent and how you become capable. The average person, the 10%, right? Because we've already established that 90% of the world is functional. The 10% want dysfunction and chaos and disorder so they can continue to control and manipulate you, so that they don't have to they have imaginary things that they don't want to do, and they want to make sure that they manipulate you into a position where you will do all of those imaginary things for them. And that's what creates the dysfunction in the world. So I run every 4 miles every morning, not to prove to anybody or myself that I can do it, but because science requires data, right? I can't do science if I don't have any data. So I'm collecting the data. Every day I come out here and I run every 4 miles every 3 days to collect the data. And the conflict between me and my wife was, I've already told her that I want to do these things, and I've intimately explained and expressed about who I am to her. And she wants to be in opposition to it. Like, well, you're taking time out for me. It's like, no, I have to go to work. I'm working 2 jobs, 7 days a week. And you're mad because I don't have enough time for you. What do you want me to do? You just need to find time for me. I can't turn a 24-hour day into a 30-hour day. What do you want me to do? I told you before we started dating, before we made our relationship official, before we got engaged, before I came out and married you, I told you that my goal was to start a career in YouTube. You don't get to be oppositional to that now that we're married, because I told you in the very beginning, before I even knew you, I was building a platform on YouTube. I was building a social media platform. So now you want to be mad at me because you want to stop me from doing something that I want to do. Give me an answer. Explain to me, wife, why you want me to stop doing the things I want to do, that I want to do. Because you need to go back to school. Okay. I'm aware that I need to go back to school. But how do I do that if I can't afford it? And it's not about money, it's about time. I can either have enough time and no money, or enough money and no time. Those are the options for the African American. Because we're not allowed to compete. Society doesn't want us to compete. Because every time we compete, they have to change the rules and raise the bar and adjust the standards. So they make sure that the African American can't compete, so that they want to be lazy. They don't want to, like I said about McDonald's. And all throughout the black community, there are fast food restaurants. None of them are owned by African Americans. They're all being ran by African Americans, and there's African Americans working in them. But none of us, for the most part, none of us owns these stores or are running these establishments. So the money is going back to Europeans. Like, at the very top of everything is always a European. You can argue with me all day if you want, but the reality is that the vast majority of all the money and all the wealth in the world is benefiting Europe. But I'm not gonna digress. What are you gonna do, wife, to help me? If you don't want me to make a YouTube career, what are you gonna do to help me? I'm not gonna do anything to help you, because I don't want to take care of my husband. My husband should take care of me. That's fair. That is fair. Let me do what I'm trying to do so I can provide for you. Well, you're not doing anything. I'm working 2 jobs and I'm bringing in X amount of money a month to the household. What is it that you want me to do? I don't want you to do anything. I just want to complain about what I feel like you're not doing. I want to create an image of you that shows that you are a failure, so that you will try harder to try to get validation from me. Okay. You have to realize, 10% of women out there, that if a man is providing you with food, water, and shelter and love, there is no such thing as 110%. 110% is the reason why women are being beaten and abused in the world. And I'm just going to say that shit because I'm getting really irritated with the answers being right fucking there. 90% of the world is functional. 90% of the world is functional. These bitches running around here don't have the answers to the test. Go talk to a woman that's married and ask her what she's doing. And the first thing she's going to do is say, I humble myself and respect myself to my husband, and I let him do what he has to do to provide for us. That's why I have 2 cars. That's why I live in a nice house. That's why I don't have any friends, because I have to make the necessary sacrifices in the world to be able to be the person that I want to be. When I'm not working, I get to go to the gas station and get gas and put it in my car. When I'm not working and I have free time, I can go to the movies. I can go to the park and spend time with my children. I don't always have exactly what it is that I want, but I have the things that I need because I'm in a functional relationship. I'm functioning at the functional level. I'm not being dysfunctional. When my husband tells me that I can't wear a certain garment, he's my fucking husband. If I didn't want him to govern me, I wouldn't have gotten married. It doesn't mean that he gets to tell me every little thing about who I am and what I'm going to do, but there is a check and balance in this relationship. If I expect him to do what I say, I have to be willing to do what he says. If I want my bills paid, then my husband has to go do overtime. If I ask my husband for a fucking jet and my husband says, okay, I have to get a second job, I have to acknowledge the fact that he's going to spend less time with me and my kids so that I can have a jet. And when my son and my daughter ask where our father is, I don't get to talk about him behind his back and reduce who he is to them, with my stepmother. I understood at that age that there was a relationship between my father having his job as a truck driver and my stepmother filling out that application, right? So when a man like my grandfather, if you talk to any one of my grandfather's kids on my mother's side, they will tell you that our granddad, Walter Emerson, is a piece of shit. He's a piece of shit. No matter what you say, no matter what you ask them, their response is he's a piece of shit. He had 6 kids with my grandmother. He was active in the home. I would come home and granddad would be there trying to beat me and trying to this and that and He was active in the home. He was present all their life. We all went to his funeral. All the neighbors said all these great things about him, but his family had nothing nice to say about him. My uncle's like, I don't understand how the man that my father was, the world says, is different than the man that I saw. And the answer is simple. The people closest to you don't have a mystical ideology behind them, right? Your sister, who your sister is and who the woman you're dating is, are the same person. They're not that much different. The only difference is the way that you choose to perceive that girl that you're going to have sex with versus the girl that you lived with every fucking day, 25 days, 7 days a week. They're the same person. Your sister and your mother, the same woman. So the things that you see your sister doing are the same things your mother was doing. They're the same person. The things that you see your brother doing are the same things your father was doing. They're the same person. Who you are is the exact same person that your parents was. That's the reason why your parents are the only people that can tell you that you're a piece of shit. Because your parents are the only ones that know who you truly are inside. And the main reason why they are constantly on you about dumbass shit is because they know who you are. They know who you are. The problem in society is that your mother only knows the feminine aspect of who you are, and your father only knows the masculine aspect of who you are. So your mother doesn't get to judge you for the man you're going to be, and your father doesn't get to judge his daughter for the woman she's going to be. Because you still have autonomy, you still have agency, you still have the capacity to do the right thing in a society that has stacked the odds against you. You have what it takes as a human to overcome the odds. That's the reason why we don't live in nature anymore. Because we overcame the odds. We transcended the limitations of nature. We transcended the limitations of nature, and we created a society to hold ourselves back. That's just how it works. That's just the reality of the world we live in. We eliminated all the adversities of nature, and the animal in us was like, I need adversity. So it was like, okay, we'll artificially manufacture adversity so that we can be content with our animalistic nature. That's what we need to function in the world. No, humans aren't content. We're not koala bears or sloths. We're not content sitting down, shutting the fuck up and being quiet. We're just not. We're just not fucking content. We need We need to move. We need to think. We need to come up with ideas. We need to imagine. We need to expand. We need to express ourselves. We need to dance. We need to sing. We need to scream. We need to yell. We need to cry. We need to love. We need the full spectrum of our existence to exist. Otherwise, we might as well not be alive. And it doesn't mean that every last man is trying to rape every last woman. The average man, this is the thing that's amazing about the normality of hypersexuality of masculinity. The average man ignores 99% of the women we encounter every fucking day. It's only the 1 or 2% of women that we encounter that we find interesting enough to even acknowledge. And of that percentage, we find tolerable enough to even want to approach. And it has nothing to do with us not trying to avoid bitches or anything like that. It's just our nature. It's our nature. When we walk into a room and there's 100 women in there, we don't want 100% of the women. We only want the woman that we want. And the goal of women is to trick us into believing that they're the woman that we want. That's with the naked hair, the naked nails, the fake nails, and the eyelashes, and the mascara, and the shirts, and the skirt. Like all of the things that women do when they sit there and try to make it seem like. One thing I will say is that women do have the capacity to make themselves attractive for themselves. But at the end of the day, the nature of a woman is to obtain a male, and the nature of a male is to obtain a female. So the agency of a woman to define herself for who she wants to be only is an expression of her desire to obtain the type of person and the type of man that she wants to have in her life. And to pretend like it's anything other than that is, there's a word that I can't think of, is counterintuitive or disingenuous. It's one of those, somewhere in that spectrum. And that's just the way life works. Like at the end of the day, that's just the way life works. This video title is The Crucifixion of Christ, and I haven't gotten there because there's a million things that I could say. There's a million instances in society that I could function on. So I'll sum it up so that I can do my 4-mile run so I can go home. The crucifix. Okay, I was raised non-Christian. I have a very complicated life. That's the reason why I have the perception of the reality of the American society that I have. My mother and my father never got along. My father left my mother, moved to Washington when I was born. I spent the first 5 or 6 years of my life living with my mother. I stopped wanting to live with my mother to go live with my father. When I moved with my father, I spent the next 10 years of my life living with my father. He was married to my stepmother. My mother had my oldest sister, and she was pregnant when I left with my youngest sister. My father already had 2 kids. And then, no, my father already had 2 kids. My brother and my sister, my oldest sister and my brother. And then my youngest sister was born later. My oldest sister was already alive. My brother was born. And then my youngest sister was also born when I was staying with my father and my stepmother. So during all of this dynamic, eventually something occurred in the dynamic of my father and my stepmother's marriage. She cheated on him. They got divorced. The courts, child support stepped in, separated the household. My father got custody of me. My stepmother got custody of my brothers and sisters. I lived for my father by myself for an undetermined amount of time. And then he wound up taking too many sleeping pills and calling the hospital. And in the process of that happening, I wound up asking him to go stay with my mother. The last thing my father said, and this is relevant to the whole point of the story, or the whole point of the Crucifixion of Christ. The last thing my father said to me before I left to stay with my mother was, "Your mother doesn't love you." And I said, "I know, but I still want to go be with my mother." So I was between the age of, I want to say I was 15 when I left my father. 15 going on 16. I got to my mother's when I was 15. And from 15 or 16. 15 going on 16, I'll say that. I graduated at the age of 17. From the age of 15 going on 16 to 17, I spent a lifetime living with my mom. My mother made my life a living fucking hell. That's just what it is. There's no way to sugarcoat it. Did my mother do all the things that a mother is supposed to do? Yes. Did my mother sacrifice and make all the necessary? Did she meet the standard of what makes a mother a good mother? Yes, she did. Did she meet the standard for what makes a bad mother a bad mother? Yes, my mother did. My mother made sure that I had the best mother and the worst mother in the world. She wins both awards. From age 15 to 17, I stayed with my mother. I graduated high school in 17. I started college 17 going on 18. I went to Spartan Aeronautics for about 3 months. Because of discrimination, racism, and all that other BS, I wasn't able to finish school. I called my mother and said, hey, can I come home? Do you mind if I come back? And this and that. She made it perfectly clear that she's my mom. She's going to always be there for me. She'll take care of me. I came back home. Shit didn't work out. I wound up staying with my uncle. So from there to my future, I was with my uncle. I stayed with my uncle for 3 or 4 years, 2 or 3 years. Then I wound up staying with my stepmother. I was in my 20s when I stayed with my stepmother. While I was with my stepmother, I was working in McDonald's, trying to become a manager. Well, I wasn't. I was staying with my stepmother. I made management while I was working at McDonald's. I started dating my ex. We met at McDonald's. My daughter's mother. We met at McDonald's. We were supposed to be engaged. We were supposed to be getting married. And in the dynamic of that, I wanted to go back to school for video game design. So me and my stepmother had an arrangement to where she was going to. Me and my brother were supposed to share the garage because I'm in my 20s and he was still in high school. Me and my brother were supposed to share the garage, and I was going to pay her X amount of money. The money I was supposed to pay her wound up becoming it became my full monthly income in the household. And mind you, this isn't like some random woman. This is supposed to be my stepmother, right? So the money that I agreed to pay her basically became my entire monthly income. Not a problem, except when we moved out of the house, moved to the garage. The agreement between me and my stepmother was me and my brother would be in the garage, right? She moved her brother, my brother's biological uncle, into the garage with us. He's in his 30s. I'm in my 20s. He's in his 30s. I have all these ambitions to be a fucking kid. Like, I'm 20. My brother's still a teenager. Like, I have all of this freedom to be a child. Like, I got a job, I got money, I got income. I'm still at the age where I'm old enough to be a mature adult, but still young enough that I want to still do young stuff. And I have the perfect excuse. My younger high school age brother. Like, we're supposed to be in this garage living our lives. Like, no, she moved her brother in. He's in his 30s. He's me now. Like, me now ain't trying to do the stuff I was trying to do when I was in my 20s. So we lost all of that freedom. We lost all of that energy of being able to just live. Even my brother was on the same page as I was on. He was like, Mama messed it up. I was like, I know. I don't know why she did that. Like, we were supposed to be having fun. We were supposed to be on the internet and playing video games and wrestling and fighting. And like, I know we can't do none of that stuff because, your uncle here. We got an adult in the room with us now. We can't be kids because we got an adult. I was an adult, but I wasn't trying to be an adult. So the conflict between me and my stepmother at that time became, her demand was, you have to give me the money that you want to give me. As a person that wanted to be legally sound, morally sound, and ethically sound, and remember, this isn't just some random person, it's my stepmother. I told her, I said, I want to go back to college. For me to go back to college, I need to pay $50 a month. These creditors are calling me and saying I need to give them $50 a month. I keep telling them that I can't afford it, and they keep telling me I got to make a way. I want to give you $50 less than what I'm making every month so I could pay them. This is what I said to her. She didn't know what I was getting every month. She didn't know what my checks was. I wasn't giving her the money that I was supposed to be giving her. I could have easily had just not given her all of my check, right? She didn't know. She didn't have any idea of what I was making. I wasn't making enough to pay her the rent that she wanted, but she didn't know what I was making. So if I wouldn't have verbally said to her at the age of 22 that I'm gonna put $50 toward me getting out of debt so I could go back to college, there would have been no way for her to know what I was spending my money on. But me being an ethically sound, morally sound, and legal person, and having respect for this woman that was a fucking bitch any damn way, me trying to make an effort with this woman, she like, no, you got to get out. You can't stay here if you're gonna try to go back to school. She's like, you can have your money, You can go back to school. You're going to need it anyway because you're not going to make it. You're going to be a failure. And I'm looking at her like, I don't understand where all this is coming from. So that resulted in me having to go, well, let me digress. The choices you make are the choices you make. You don't get to pretend like you didn't decide the things you decided. I decided to go stay with my at the time fiance instead of being homeless on the street. My options were stay with her. My options were move in with my daughter's mother at the time before my daughter was born, be homeless on the street in Vancouver, Washington as an African American male, or return to Detroit and live with my mother and my family in Detroit. So I chose the new option. I chose to make a future with my at the time fiance. So I moved in with my fiance. So I stayed with my daughter's mother for a few months, and then once she got pregnant, she kicked me out. She got pregnant. She told me the relationship was over with and it was done, and that she made it clear to me that I was going to be paying child support, and she kicked me out. So when she kicked me out, I didn't know what to do. It was like at that point we've already established that I can't go back to my stepmother. I don't want to go back to Detroit where I am right now, and the only option that I have is being homeless. So you know what I did? I did the most logical thing that no one ever said to me, because the people around me didn't want to fucking help me be the person that I should have been. I went and got a goddamn apartment, right? Like, from the age of being born to the age of 22, there wasn't a single adult in my fucking life that said, PC, get your own fucking place. No one verbally said that shit to me. And it doesn't make me dumb. It's just when you're a child, right? You're a child and you're a dependent and you're going through life and you're doing these certain things and you're behaving in a certain way. It never occurred to me that I could just go get my own damn place, right? Like all of the stuff that was happening to me, even my brother. When I was staying with my stepmother, I could have just went and got my own damn apartment. Like, I could have just got a second job, went and got an apartment. And mind you, I was trying to get an apartment, but when you're a kid, right, when you're 17, 18, and 19, and you're trying to make it in life, and you go fill out applications, and you're told certain things, it doesn't occur to you that life changes, right? So when I was working part-time at the age of 18, when I was in college, my rent was like $400 or something low, right? I was working part-time because I had a part-time job because I was in college. So I was only making like $500, $600 a month. My rent was like $400 a month. So I was barely making enough money to pay my rent. But I was working part-time. So a part-time check and a full-time check are not the same thing. So when you think about it in that spectrum, like, well, if I can't afford $400 a month, how am I going to be able to afford $600 a month or $800 or $900 a month? And the answer is you get paid more money if you work more hours a week. But when you're young, you don't always have those answers to questions. And the biggest problem in the world is that young, ignorant people that don't have the answers ask questions and don't get a valid response from the 90% of the people because they're too busy dealing with the 10%. The 10% wants to see you fail so they can validate themselves. So they don't tell you about all the mistakes they made. They don't give you the good answers to what you should do in life. They just give you some bullshit so they can watch you suffer like they suffered. But the 90% are the ones that be like, yeah, just go get an apartment. Or in the situation with my stepmother, that's commendable that you want to pay off your debt. That's a very responsible thing for you to do at your age. Let me support you in that endeavor. Even if my stepmother would have said, I don't trust that you're going to do that. Give me the $50 and I'll pay your debt for you. That would have been better than go be fucking homeless on the street because I know you're going to fail any damn way. Right? Like, why would you set somebody that you have known since they were 6 fucking years old up for failure? Imagine anybody in your life that you've known since they were 6 years old and you've watched that person grow into a man. Why would you help that person be a failure? Why? But then the man, me, I have to take accountability for myself, right? It's my fault that the quality of my life was diminished by the influence of people that had more autonomy over me than I had when I was trying to grow from being a child to a man, right? So again, I'm I'm digressing from the whole point of this story. That's pretty much the timeline that led to where I am today. Because as soon as I had to start paying, once my daughter's mother started collecting child support from a man that didn't deserve to pay child support, because I never got a chance to be a functional member of society. I never got the opportunity to be a functional member of society because my daughter's mother just stripped 51% of my income. They tell you that it's a percent. Is no. They take 50. If you can't afford to pay what the courts request, the courts wanted $7.40 in child support. No, I'm sorry. The courts adjusted my child support at $7.40 at filing. When I wound up being stuck in Detroit again because I didn't have anywhere to go, I was only making $5.50 an hour without a residency because I was still living with my family. And I was still working part-time hours because if you don't have stability, you don't work full-time jobs. You only work a full-time job if you have stability. If you don't have stability, you rarely work a full-time job. So I was making part-time wages at $5.50 an hour, working 2 jobs, getting double taxed by the government, barely earning any actual physical income to pay child support at $7.40 an hour when my income was only $5.50 an hour. And that's how I started my life. Like that was the introduction for me as a functional adult and a bachelor, as they would say in America. Because my daughter's mother wanted to be part of the 10%. She didn't want to have to be a morally sound, legally operating, and ethical person. So that's pretty much what happened. So in that energy, I spent the next 18 years of my life having to deal with the adversities of child support, functioning with the 10% that don't know shit and don't have any way of wanting to or knowing how to resolve the conflicts in my life. And that's the foundation of my 2 cents right there. Because child support is it's a great idea and a horrible execution. I'll just leave it at that. In the present, after paying child support, I got with my now wife, and I endured the adversities of her bullshit, trying to validate myself to her and trying to humble myself and be respectful so that I could be in a healthy, happy marriage and have healthy, happy, stable children with her. But she wants to be the 1%. She wants to be the 10%. She wants to operate at the lowest vibration, whine and complain and argue and fight and bitch and moan. No matter what I do, it's never good enough. She constantly wants to be disrespectful and run her mouth and say whatever she wants to say while simultaneously telling me that I can't do the same thing. Treat others the way you want to be treated. So if she feels like she has the right to be disrespectful to me, then I should be able to be disrespectful to her. And if she's not willing to allow me to be disrespectful to her or even just say mean things that are true, right? I should be able to speak the truth and you should be able to receive the truth. And if you can't do that, then there's a problem. You want me to accept your lies, but you don't want to accept my truth. You don't want to acknowledge my truth, but you want me to acknowledge and accept your lies. You want me to reforge who I am in your image. My current wife repeatedly went out of her way. I'm 42 fucking years old. She went out of her way to repeatedly try to rechange my narrative. And the reason why she wants to rechange my narrative is because my narrative is on the internet. My narrative is on the internet. Because my 2 cents is a functional methodology on how to function in society. And my character as a person and as a man is relevant to the brand that I'm creating. And I have explained this to my wife repeatedly. She wants to change my fucking narrative. She wants to try to turn me into a stereotypical piece of shit influencer on the internet. I don't want to fucking do that. They're the fucking problem. These people running around here trying to make life seem like it's something that is not are the problem. Because you don't get to function at the dysfunctional level and believe that you're functional. You have to be functional at the functional level to be validated as functional. You don't get an award for being a fucking failure in life. You don't. You just don't get a fucking reward for it. You don't get praised for failure. You don't get validated for failure. And you shouldn't want to be validated for your failures. You should want to be able to. Here's the thing about being a failure. If that's your aspiration, you should aim for that shit. If your goal is to be under the norm, if this is where average is and you want to be below that shit, fucking aim for that. It's not hard to aim for that. It's not. If you want a D- in school, you don't have to work hard to get a fucking A and then be sad that you got an A. Just aim for the fucking D-. It's not hard. It's not difficult to fail at life, right? Don't get an A+ and then complain that you wanted a D, because I'm trying to get an A+. I'm trying to achieve an A+ and I keep getting a B-. Don't be bad at me because I'm trying to get to the A and I keep getting a B, and you're upset with yourself because you want to be a fucking D and you got an A+. Don't do that, because you should be able to achieve the goal. Because if you're failing at getting a D because you're succeeding at getting an A, there's something wrong with you, because you should be able to recognize how great you are at the thing that you're achieving. And it's a reality of the 10% have fucked you up so goddamn much that you can't even recognize your own greatness. And how do you fail at being a failure? How do you fail at being a failure while not being able to recognize or acknowledge success? The biggest adversity of my life after after enlisting to the military, the thing that irritates me more than anything fucking else is having somebody come up to me and ask me a damn question, tell me they don't know the fucking answer, and then immediately give me the answer. Paul, how you do this? I'm not really sure how you do that. I'm not sure either. I think. No, you don't fucking think. You don't fucking think, because you already told me you don't know. You told me you don't fucking know. And after you tell me you don't know, now you want to explain to me what the answer is. You should have led with, here's the solution to this problem. And then let me, as a ethical, moral, and legal person, use the information that you're giving me as a scientist to apply that principle to achieving the objective that you have outlined and defined. But we don't do that in society. Because as soon as, like those bitches that I work with at McDonald's, as soon as I come in with a solution to the problem, the first thing they want to do is say, you're not the right skin complexion to have agency to tell me what I'm going to do. Only white people can tell me how to operate in this store and in this company, and can tell me what I'm supposed to do and it work and be functional. And when I say you don't have the fucking authority to talk to a veteran like that, I'm the problem. I'm the issue. Because when I enlisted into the military, it automatically made me validated the fact that I have what it takes to do something that 90% of the people can't. Doesn't mean I'm better than 90% of society. It just means empirically, and has been written down in legislation, that Mr. Emerson has what it takes to perform at a level that 90% of people in the world cannot perform at. That's what it simply means. And the thing that the average person don't recognize in me at the age of 42, because I enlisted at 34, is I've always been this fucking person. Always been this fucking person. From the goddamn day that I stepped foot in elementary school, I was already a fucking soldier in the United States Army. And I had the entire institutionalized system of racism trying to fuck shit up for me so that I couldn't make it to that point. And that's where we fell as a society. Because that's the whole point, right? The whole point of the world. The biggest conflict that I have with my wife is she keeps trying to convince me that there's her premise for me being a failure now is that I can't fucking spell. And I've repeatedly explained to her 1,000 fucking times that when I was in elementary school in a white ass community here in Detroit, going to Taft Elementary, where my father and my stepmother was living here in the city of, well, not in Detroit, but in the Michigan area. I think I was living in Redford. But when I was living in Redford and my mother was on child support getting custody and coming to visit me and never showing up, and I'm sitting outside waiting for her for hours in a day, they didn't teach me how to spell. The same way I remember writing that my stepmother is a fucking bitch in the ground, I remember sitting in the class being separated from the white kids and being taught to memorize all of the goddamn words. But I was a kid, so I didn't understand, like, what are they doing over there? They were learning phonics over there. Don't worry about what they're doing. You need to learn. You need to sit here and memorize these words. while simultaneously telling my father, oh, your son, he can't keep up with the rest of the kids in class. Well, of course I can't keep up with the rest of the kids in class if you're giving me a different curriculum than them. If you change the curriculum that they're getting from the one I'm getting, I'm either fucking superior at what it is they're doing, or you're holding me fucking back because I'm not in a special needs class. So if I'm in the same class with the rest of the functional as Americans, why are you treating me differently than them? And we know the answer. Because of my skin complexion. In the 80s, in America, in Detroit, or Redford, whatever, me being separated from the white kids and being taught something different from the white kids is institutional fucking discrimination and racism. And it set me up to have to the adversity of not being able to spell. And my spelling was fucking horrible. My spelling was horrible. When I went to college and did the entrance exam, I was spelling at a 4th grade level at the age of 22. I was spelling at a 4th grade fucking level with a high school diploma. My reading comprehension, though, was at the 12th grade level. Because fortunately for me, the brain processes those two things as separate entities, which is the reason why when you're in a functional environment, people don't function the same way. Because competency does not mean that you are capable of every fucking thing. Sometimes you're good at something and sometimes you're not good at something. And the goal should always be not to tell somebody that they're a fucking failure, but to help them with their weakness and lean on their strengths. Everybody is good at something, because guess what I always did? I always gave all my paperwork to a woman so she could fill that shit out, just like my father did with my stepmother. Here, write this stuff down for me. That's what I did, because I learned that shit in the household with a man that was functional. I know that my handwriting is terrible because the system made me have terrible handwriting. I know that I don't spell that well because the system made it so that I can't spell that fucking well. So now here I am with a wife that's telling me I can't spell. So guess what she should be doing? The same fucking thing that my stepmother did for my father. The same thing. Proofreading and editing shit for me. No, you know what she wants to do? She wants to remind me every fucking day that I can't spell and try to use that as justification to say that I'm fucking stupid. But guess what? I'm the assistant store manager at Arby's and I am a shift manager at McDonald's. And I bring in X amount of income every fucking month so that you can have the money you need to take care of yourself. And I'm making the necessary sacrifices in my life for that. So what is it more that you want me to do? Well, you need to be the leader of your household. You need to stand on principles and make your wife submit. How do you make a woman submit if she doesn't want to? Submission is all about submission, the actual thing that it actually implies and means is a choice. Women have to choose to submit. You can't force somebody to submit. It goes against the nature of the definition of the fucking word. But if you listen to people in the world, they tell you that you have to make a woman submit. You can't make somebody submit. You can't. Look the fucking word up. 12th grade comprehension level over here. I might not be able to spell submission, but I know what the fuck it means. And I can recognize it if you write it down. Can I spell the word? Probably not. If you wrote 10 words out and asked me which one was submit, I could point that shit out to you. Because the human mind is not limited to the values that we give to it. Because the values that you have been given are the ones that help you be a fucking failure in life. The reason why they want you to not think correctly is so they can control and manipulate you. Because they don't want you to have... The moment that you tell a child that at 9 o'clock they need to wash their dishes, is the moment that you at 9 fucking o'clock as an adult has to have your child come to you and say, Mom, Dad, it's 9 o'clock and you didn't wash out your cup. And what adult wants a child to tell them that they're supposed to be operating at the same standard that they gave to that child? Only my fucking father, only the man that raised me was that quality of a man. Only my father was the one that listened to the shit that I said to him. When he gave me a principle, I reminded him of that principle. And you know what he did? He governed himself by the same fucking principles he expected me to govern myself by. And you know what happened in life? We was quite content living and chilling until his relationship with his wife fucking destroyed him. Until his relationship with his wife destroyed him. So my wife is being a bitch, and she doesn't want me to use my fucking brand to explain how to be functional in society when that's the fucking brand. That's the goddamn brand. It's just like, what's his name? Damn, what's the dude's name? I got an old brain. Not Steve. Is it? I think it is Steve Harvey. How he is like, think like a man, act like a woman. He's out here telling everybody what they should do and how they can maintain a relationship and how they can hold on to their wife and how to run their household and have a fucking family. And he's got multiple wives. Like, who the fuck do you think you are trying to give us advice when you can't even run your own damn household, right? So the highest state of my 2 cents, and listen, when I was 22 years old, I wanted to be married. I wanted to be a husband and a father. But getting married was just something I had wanted to do as a part of who I wanted to be. But as my brand transformed to wanting to actually establish myself as not an influencer, because that's dumb as fuck, as an empirical scientist that can give you information on how you can obtain the things that you desire in life, because I know that shit works. Who the fuck am I to tell you how to be a better husband when my wife is running around not even practicing the shit in my book? And then when I'm sitting here not able to sell my fucking book because she wants to do what she wants to do, she's going to be looking at me like I'm the problem. When we already know what the issue is in the world. We already have all the answers. So that's, this is the rant. But again, I fucking digress. All of this is to say this about the crucifixion of Jesus. Everybody has their understanding about who Christ is and all that, yada yada, etc., etc. First, I'm not a fucking Christian. I'm not a Christian. My wife knew that I wasn't a Christian before we got a Christian marriage. My wife has known everything that she's supposed to know about me because I never kept anything from her. I never had any secrets. I never pulled any punches. I did all of the bullshit that women say that men are supposed to do. None of that shit matters to them. It's all just a tactic so that they can control and manipulate you and have a better hold over you. The truth of the matter is that functional as women don't behave like that. If you're in a relationship with a female that is absolutely quiet and humble and respectful, don't ask her to be normal. Just be fucking grateful. Don't question why she's not out cheating. Just be fucking grateful. If your wife comes home and you say, "Hey honey, how was your day?" and she said, "My day was good," don't question her. Just be grateful she's not running her fucking mouth. Just be grateful and appreciate the 90%. Don't question. Don't look a gift horse in the fucking mouth. If you think that your wife is cheating on you, if you think your wife is doing any type of whatever illegal and suspicious shit to you, but she's showing you the respect that you deserve as a husband, let that shit go. Let it go. But when you know that you're in a relationship with someone that is being immoral, unethical, and illegal, and it's not your imagination, move her back to legal, moral, and ethical. You don't have to question the validity of who she is as a person, and you don't have to argue and fight with them or none of that. Just make sure they understand that the household should be legal, moral, and ethical. Because I don't want you to rob me so that you can have sex with your wife, and I'm not going to rob you so that I can have sex with my wife. That's the message. That's like, if you don't get anything else out of this discussion that we're having right now today as a man, I don't give a damn about what the women have to say in the comment. If you want to make a comment, go ahead. But this is the conversation that a man is having with the rest of the men in this world. If you take nothing else from this, don't engage in decadence and destruction of this world for a woman. And I won't engage in decadence and destruction of this world for my woman. I won't come steal from you for her, and you don't come steal from me for yours. Because at the end of the day, we can be functional adults at the masculine level if we ignore the unnecessary, unethical, immoral, and illegal desires of our wives. They have every right to demand of us, as long as they know that we are not going to do things that are illegal, immoral, or unethical. And that is the basic conflict in the world, that these men are out here standing on divine principle and being held accountable for their wives' bullshit when their wives don't want them to do the right thing in life. When a woman is asking men and manipulating men into deviating from um their honor and their integrity, that shit doesn't resonate with us. It just doesn't. It doesn't fucking resonate. If you're a good man, being asked to do something that isn't good doesn't resonate with you. And even if you don't recognize it consciously, you're gonna be oppositional to that. You're gonna be oppositional to any type of coercion or deception from anybody if you legitimately are a decent, honest, kind person. And again, I'm digressing. The crucifixion of Christ. We've all heard the story. The basic gist, I'm gonna paraphrase because I haven't read this in a long ass fucking time. The basic paraphrasing of the story is that after Mary gets married, she's a virgin. God comes down, impregnates her. Her husband, I think David, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Some European doesn't want to acknowledge or accept the fact that his wife's committed adultery because she's supposed to be a virgin. He never had sex with her. So God comes to him and says, don't worry about it. Put all of your whatever you have or your doubts to the side because I am the Lord and I'm letting you know that I'm the one that got your wife pregnant. I don't know why God didn't get permission. But anyway, I'm digressing. I'm the one that's responsible for your daughter, for your wife's I'm responsible for your wife being pregnant. And her child will be the Son of God. Right? Jesus is born. Wise men show up, validate Jesus' birth, says that he's the Son of God. Time skips because they can't show you Jesus as a child being an adult child. Being a human child. We get to, I think Paul is the one that baptized Jesus. I could be wrong. The names and stuff might be a little off, but the gist of the story is going to be the same because I haven't read it in a long time and I didn't feel like even wasting time trying to refresh it. So some of the details will be a little off, but it's my interpretation. So Jesus gets baptized so he can start his quest to become the Son of God. He goes out, he talks to people, he ministers, he preaches the gospel, he explains all of the necessary principles to be divinity and all that stuff and acceptance and love and yada yada, etc., etc. He goes and gets tempted by the devil. He cries tears of blood because he asks God not to sacrifice him for the sake of humanity. He talks to the public and is challenged by the government and told that he's not God and that what he's doing is blasphemy. He has to prove that he's God and validate his godness by performing some divine act. He would perform supernatural and divine acts for his disciples and for the average person in the world, but he refused to do it as a public figure. So the time came where he was supposed to be judged by the court, and the court said, we don't find any evidence that you are in any way guilty of any blasphemy. Whoever the person was. Oh, before that, he was sold out by Judas, because that's important. Judas is the one that sold him out so that the people of authority could actually capture him and take him and punish him and kill him and crucify him. So after Judas does that, he makes money off of it. Jesus goes and stands in front of whatever representation he was of the Roman leadership or the legislation or the court or the court, the country, whatever, the king, whatever. That individual says, I don't find you guilty. This is important. That individual says, I don't find you guilty. He leaves it to the people. He goes to people and he says, I have convicted felons that I know beyond a shadow of a doubt are criminals. We know these individuals are criminals. We don't have any evidence that this man is an actual criminal. So I leave it to you, the people. Choose the person that is innocent, that claims to be the Son of God, who has not given us any evidence that he is God, or these criminals. Who do you choose? The people chose that Jesus should be punished for all of the things that he's done, which wasn't even relevant or validated in any way, shape, or form. So then Jesus becomes crucified. He's crucified next to the other vagabonds, and that's why we have the story about the man that goes to heaven even though he had all these sins, because he recognized and acknowledged that Jesus was God. So God spared him, whatever, yada yada, etc., etc. Jesus dies on the cross. His body is taken and entombed, and then he disappears for 3 days, validating the resurrection. And he comes back. He meets his disciples. The disciples recognizes him as God in the flesh, and then the stories were written in the Bible. That's just a summary of the story. There's other details that are missing. But the reason why I'm saying this is because the philosophy of the crucifixion of Jesus is going over everybody's fucking head. The premise, the my 2 cent premise, what I understand and what I interpret from that story now as a man. I wasn't always a man. You read the Bible as a child. The premise of that story is that not even God. So in society, the highest order of authority, remember ethics, morality, and legality, right? The highest order of authority in society is what? The government, right? The police. The police have the right to come and harass me because they have been given authority by who? By their sheriff and their whoever. And then that person has authority, and then that person has authority, and that person has authority. So authority in society comes from the highest state, which in America would be the president. The president's authority is given to the Senate. The president and the Senate shares authority. The Senate gives authority to the federal government. The federal government gives authority to the state. The state gives authority to the counties. The county gives authority to the citizens, to the cities. The cities gives authority to the people, the community, and the community gives authority to the people. Right within that structure, we have legal system. The legal system is the only body. The legal system is the only corporation. Think about RoboCop. The legal system is the only corporation that is allowed to infringe upon your rights as a human being in America. In America, the only corporation that can infringe on your rights as a human being is the legal system. Legality is the only thing that can say, I'm taking away your autonomy and I'm taking away your rights as a person. And now you have been reduced to a child. Now you have been reduced to chattel, or even lower than chattel would be animal, right? If you're either reduced to chattel, or you're found to be criminally insane, and then your autonomy is reduced down, and then at that point you become an animal, right? Because if you're not mentally sound and mentally capable, then you're animalistic, and if you're animalistic, then you have the same rights as any other animal. If you function above that but below the citizen level, then you're chattel, and chattel translates to nigger, right? So those are the elements of the way these things work in the world, right? So the whole point of the crucifixion. Good morning. The whole point of the crucifixion of Christ is basically just this. This is what I took away from the story, based on everything I just told you. The justice system of the world. Remember, the story is supposed to take place at a certain time. During that time of Christ, or at least during the time of the story of Christ, the justice system of the world was so horrible, so corrupt, that the philosophy of the crucifixion of Christ was simply this: not even God can prove his own innocence in court. That is the actual fundamental understanding of the crucifixion of Christ. That's what it boils down to. The reason why I come out here every day and run 4 miles is because I can't prove to you, watching this video, that I'm running 4 miles every day. Nobody that's watching these videos can have actual evidence or autonomy or proof or understanding or belief that I actually come out here and run 4 miles every 3 days. I can't validate myself to that. There's no way for me to prove any fucking thing to anybody. Proof in of itself doesn't even exist in the context that we allow ourselves to believe that it exists. Like all of this bullshit about the Matrix and illusions and all that stuff. The only real true illusion that exists in this world is the infringement on the nature of proof. Because proof is what it is. But we allow ourselves to entertain anything other than that because everyone is guilty of some shit and everybody wants to make sure they have enough wiggle room, right? Wiggle room, so they can get away with their own fucking dirt. And they have no problem with throwing somebody else under the fucking bus Because in the Christian society, even if you didn't do something, you're still fucking guilty. You're always guilty in a Christian society. No one is not guilty in a Christian society. We're all fucking guilty. But we all feel like we should have a right to not be punished for our guilt. Nobody wants to be held accountable for the things that they've done. But we all feel like we should have the right to hold somebody else accountable for the things that we think that they did. Right? So the crucifixion of Christ was really just the philosophy of the level of corruption that exists in the world. That even God, being tried by man, can't prove his own innocence in the court system. The court system is so fucking corrupt that even if God swore an oath on the Bible to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, he would still be found guilty of a crime that he didn't even fucking commit. That was the whole point of the crucifixion of Christ, to show the failing of the justice system. Right? Because what else was there? If you read the goddamn story and quit feeling something and quit interpreting the bullshit, Jesus put on trial. The government said, we don't find you guilty of a crime. No crime was committed. But the actual people themselves said he's guilty of blasphemy. He's not Jesus. He's not the Son of God. But the people are the ones that said that he's the Son of God. The justice system never said that he was the Son of God. The people constantly calling the police on Jesus were the people. The police wasn't running around on the street looking for Jesus and trying to harass him and chastise him and bring him in for nothing. The people are the ones that said that he was a terrorist. The government didn't fucking care. Functionally, the government was like, he's just another citizen like the rest of the citizens. It was the individual members of society at the time coming to the justice system and saying, this person is doing things that are illegal and he needs to be punished for it. That made it so that Jesus wound up in a position that he was in to be put on trial to begin with. But if he is divinity, if the legal system is supposed to go all the way up to God, right? If all rights to take away somebody else's rights is granted to us from God, how then do you punish God in his own system of government? How does God not have the capacity to prove his own innocence if society isn't corrupt? And that is the true nature of the crucifixion of Christ. That is the true understanding of the story. If you really read the book and really look at all of the pieces of the story, that's what it boils down to. Because the conversation that Jesus had with the devil had nothing to do with the crucifixion of Christ. It had everything to do with Jesus recognizing who he was, what he was supposed to do, and why he was sent here, and not deviating from his own fucking mission. He didn't want to fucking adult, as I always say. He didn't want to fucking adult. Hey son, look, this is what I need you to do. I need you to go to Earth. I need you to fucking die. I don't want to do that. Okay, I understand you don't want to do it, but you're doing it anyway. Go. And then when Jesus got here, he understood the fucking mission. He understood exactly what was supposed to happen. And he did that shit. And he like, is there anything like you could do, God, to like, so that this doesn't have to fucking happen? Like, is it necessary for me to have to endure all this bullshit? And he never got any answer. He never got any response. It was never any type of return or nothing. There was no, the whole story of Jesus on earth, there was no definitive interaction between him and God. You know why? Because he's supposed to be fucking God. So the only person he's talking to is himself. The only person that he's saying these things to is himself. The only person that had the autonomy and the validity to make the shit that was happening to him stop was him. Because at the end of the day, if he is fucking God, then he sent himself to the planet to do the dumb shit that he put in place for himself. Right? But the whole point of the story was not about the character. It was about the understanding that put God on trial. In 2024, put God on trial for a crime and watch him get convicted. That's what the crucifixion of Jesus was about. That's what it has always been about. And it wasn't the government, it was the people. We keep whining and complaining and being upset about what the government is doing and what the legal system does to us. But at the end of the day, Jesus was crucified by the Christians that he was sent here to deliver a message to. And the message was, your government system fucking sucks. And your ability to govern yourselves is a little bit out of date. And you really need to fix that shit. And they said, we don't comply. We don't hear what you're saying. Fuck you. You're going to be subject to the same bullshit that humans are subject to because we don't recognize your authority because we get our authority from God. And he like, but I am God. So you get your authority from me. And they're like, bullshit. If you're God, when we kill you, you will resurrect and we will know you're resurrected and they will recognize that you're God. But the only way that you can prove that you're God on this planet is you have to fucking survive death. It's the only way you can prove that you're God on this planet. You have to survive death. And since the only validation for God on this planet is you have to die, we keep losing good people. We keep losing all of the good people. And the vast majority of the people on the planet become the evil, corrupt, bad people. And that's just what we see. It's not even like some shit that I'm making up. You observe it every day with yourself. The vast majority of the people around you are fucked up. And every day is a struggle for you not to be fucked up like them. And the more you be legal, moral, and ethical, the more you get stuck in this paradigm with them where you can't do anything. You don't have any fucking agency. Because if you go outside, you're going to get harassed by the police. If you stay inside, you're going to get harassed by your parents or your wife or your kids. If you don't go to work, then you lose your house, you become homeless. And if you do go to work, then you have to deal with bullshit. And the more bullshit you deal with, the more you wind up becoming subject to the same bullshit that the 10% function at. 10% are lazy pieces of shit that don't want to do anything with their lives. The 90% of us are functional. And my 2 cents is about being stuck in that paradigm of, I am a functional member of society and I don't want to deal with dysfunctional ass people. How do I stop being around dysfunctional fucking people and be part of a functional ass member, a functional part of society? And guess what? The functional people don't fucking want you because you're dysfunctional. If you are in a dysfunctional environment, then you are dysfunctional. And functional people don't fucking want you. So how do you transition? How do you transcend that dysfunction into function? Because the functional people are fucked up at their own level, right? So there's no place in human culture. There's not a single level where you can be functional at. There's always a level of function above whatever you obtain. And that's the reason why our justice system is fucked up. Because even though you might have a college degree, you're still a fucking animal. Even though you might have a master's, you're still a fucking animal. Even though you have a doctorate, you're still a fucking animal. But nobody, except for Mr. Rogers, figured that shit out. And the goal is not to be Mr. Rogers. The goal is to just be able to just provide for your family and not die every fucking day. Make somebody some money so they can have an extra zero in their bank account. Like, what's the fun in that? Why do these McDonald's need a fucking McDonald's in every fucking corner? Just so they can destroy Burger King. Like, what is the goal in destroying Burger King? So everybody could just eat McDonald's. Like, now everybody's only able to go eat McDonald's because you destroyed the competition. What is the goal? What is the long-term goal? You're not shutting Burger King down so you can sell me a flame broiled burger. So why do you have to eliminate the other option? They're not your competitor, they're just the other option. Like, what is the goal? It doesn't make any sense when you really think about it on a conscious level. It doesn't make any sense. Like, why can't I at my age be the owner operator of a fast food restaurant? Why can't I compete against these corporations created a standard? Why can't I bring in people, provide them with a job, a 401k, and all? Because I would be able to. If I had a fast food restaurant as an individual and it was making $15 or $20 million a fucking year and I only had like 30 people working for me, All the asses could have 401ks and pensions and shit. Because I don't need $14 fucking million to run a goddamn fast food restaurant. Like, what am I gonna do with all that damn money? What am I gonna do with it? But think about it. Why would anybody, the average, let's say the average fast food worker makes $20 an hour in today's economy. Why would you want to work at that salary level for 40 years? Why would you want to? If you came in at the age of 17 and you worked in the fast food restaurant and every year you got a raise, within 20 years, you'd be making like $30 an hour, right? But it's not sustainable if the fast food restaurant is a multi-billion-dollar corporation that don't want to pay you $45 an hour because you are a doctorate. You spent 20 years of your life working in fast food, and now you deserve $35, $40, or $50 an hour, like any other tech that went to school for 4 years and became a master at their craft. But the corporation don't want to pay you $35 an hour or $40 an hour to make fries. You deserve that shit, but they don't want to pay you that. You know what would happen if you went to a fast food restaurant and all the people in there was making like $40 an hour and they were operating at the highest level of their craft? It would be fucking magic. It would be fucking magic. You would be amazed at the level of quality of food and service that you will receive. But we don't get that because they don't make money off of paying somebody $30 an hour to drop fries. Why should I pay you $30 an hour to drop fries when I could pay a 16-year-old $15 an hour to drop the same damn fry in the same basket? Because the goal of McDonald's is to make the job easier so that they can produce the quality of the food at a cheaper price. So when that is your business fucking plan, high quality food with low skilled labor, sometimes your labor skill is too fucking low to produce the quality that you want to produce. And the only way that you can raise that is by paying a little bit more. But they don't want to do that. Because they pay a little bit more, then they have to raise the value of the product. And if they raise the value of the product, then the average American citizen is not going to want to spend the money on it. Right? But, like I said, if the owner-operator of that store, if the general manager of that restaurant was the owner-operator, then the $14 million or the $15 million or $20 million that he would make would go into his fucking pocket. And if we didn't have the fucking tax laws that we have, he could be a 14 or 15 millionaire working at a fast food restaurant, and then he could afford to give his crew of 30 to 100 people a fucking pension. Basic fucking economics from the person with the 4th grade spelling level. Basic economics. And if I can figure that shit out on my level, there's a problem with people that went to college for 4 fucking years that are running our economy and can't get it right. You went to college as an economics. You've been doing this shit for 40 fucking years. You've got all of the goddamn data. You have all of the goddamn data. You have all of the records from 1900s, 1800s, 1500s, 1600s. You know how economies run. But you can't get it right. Because you can get it right. You just don't want to get it right. Because why would you make it better for the rest of the world when you could just make it work for you? Just make it work for you. And that goes back to being immoral, unethical, and illegal. So that's my rant for today. I'm going to just keep coming out here doing what I got to do. I'm going to keep it pushing like my father always says and figure this shit out. Like, I'm not going to, I don't know. It's not hard. I just want to, get on the internet and have an intellectual conversation. I don't want to be on it. I don't like flinging feces at everybody. It's a waste of my time. I didn't enlist to the army to be a failure. I didn't get married to be a failure. I don't go to work every day at McDonald's to be a failure. And I constantly have people try to convince me that I am a failure and that I'm a fucking nigger. I don't have time for that in my life. I'm an American that's legitimately out here trying to be honest and make an honest living for myself and not infringe on other people's rights and privileges. And I shouldn't have to feel like I'm a burden to the world because I'm not allowed to be a functioning member of society. That doesn't sit right with me in a world that there's like so much labor that needs to take place, but you just don't want to give us the resources that we need to be able to contribute. Like, it's not hard. It's not difficult. There's nothing about what we're supposed to do every day that is a mystery anymore. Not all of the mysteries have been solved. All the problems have been resolved. So why can't we just do what needs to be done? So the brand My 2 cent. That's what it's about. And my wife frustrates the hell out of me because I shouldn't have to validate myself to somebody that I have already validated myself to. And I shouldn't have to go to work every fucking day and validate myself to people that I've already validated myself to. I shouldn't have to come outside every fucking day and prove to the police that I'm not a criminal every fucking day. Every goddamn day I have to prove to you that I'm not out here doing anything illegal. I'm 42 years. I've been on this planet for 42 years. How many more years is it going to take before you don't look at me and see a thug? Like, at what age do black men stop being fucking thugs? At what point in our life do we stop being thugs? At what point, when do we become functioning members of society in an institutionalized system? Like, when? When does it happen? It doesn't fucking happen. What happens is that you individually recognize your own fucking greatness and choose not to deviate from legality, ethics, and morality. And when we do that collectively, the shit stops being what it is. When your boss says, put a little bit under the table, and you say, no, I'm not doing that, the shit stops. When you're a landlord and you don't raise your tenant's rent because you have enough money, then it stops. You don't have to throw this person out because you raise their rent by $50 and now they can't afford to pay you, and now you kick them out and call them, squatters and all that. Like, all that stuff will just stop. It doesn't have. We are in 100% of control of our society, and we consent to everything that takes place by simply not being in opposition to things that we don't agree with. If you don't like where you work, fucking quit. If you don't like your coworkers, fucking quit. Quit working with them. Let somebody else come in there and fill that spot so that they can have the asshole that they want to work with. If they can function better with a bunch of bitches and assholes around them, then fucking quit. If all the honest people quit and go find one place to congregate, then that place will outperform all of the other places. If all of the people that work at McDonald's that are competent and functional will all just quit and go work at one store where they're all functional and competent, then all of the people in the world that want to eat at McDonald's will go to that store, and all the other stores will shut the fuck down. And then the corporations will realize, oh, people really do want quality service. People really do want to be invested in and actually legitimately decent, honest human beings. But we're not doing that individually. Individually, we're still allowing ourselves to be told that we're not good enough, that we suck. Like, we're still entertaining that energy. And at some point in your life, you have to just stop entertaining that energy. And that's what I'm doing. And that's what My 2 cent is about. Do I want to get on Facebook and bitch and moan and complain about and whine and cry about my wife? No. But did I get married to be put in a position to be constantly harassed and disrespected by the woman that I married? No. I didn't marry her for her to tell me that I can't fucking spell. I've asked her 1,000 times to help me with my limitations. She refuses. She fucking refuses. So what do you want me to do? You want me to stop working so I can sit down and learn how to spell? Is that going to put food on the table for us? Is that going to increase the quality of life in our household? No, because I live in a society that wants me to be fucking stupid. They like the fact that I'm fucking dumb. I go to work and I pretend like I'm dumb, and then they give me a check. And if I go to work and operate at the competent level and be functional and be actually intelligent, then they have a problem because it deviates from what they believe and what they feel should be right in their perception of the world and reality. We need you to not do that because you don't have the right complexion to be a functioning member of society. We need to make sure that we maintain that only white people are competent and only white people are able to do the things that need to get done, and that everybody else is incompetent and incapable. So I could rant for hours and hours, but I'm not going to. As always, my name is Paul Emerson, and I've given you My 2 cent.